Well, howdy and what's up, Internet? Jeremy with C6 Defense again for a long awaited video by the ones and ones of you that have requested it. Actually, I get this question a lot, whether it's a safety awareness class or just talking about gun stuff in general. So, welcome to EDC Part 2. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that I carry. Well, I've already done the video where I tell you about everything I carry, but specifically we're going to talk about some of the pistol stuff that I carry. So with that, we're going to go to the table and I'll do a little bit of an overview and then we'll wrap it up. Let's go to the table. Well, welcome back to the table. Just wanted to point out something that I totally forgot earlier, and that is coffee. We must have coffee. So, all is well now. Anyway, I wanted to give a quick overview of the pistol that I carry typically and some honorable mentions and just let you know why. So, one thing that I've noticed when I've taken trainings or talked to people a lot about through this is that some people just buy cool stuff and they expect it to work for them just like it does on on a TV show or on their favorite gun tube channel. Sorry, if you can't see me, I'm talking with my hands. So, since you can't see me, rather. Um, but what I've noticed is that when people actually put what they've purchased into practice, wow, that's a lot of P words. See if I can do it anymore unintentionally, of course. Um, or they go and take a training class, especially when you take a training class and you're put through your paces. Haha, P words. Um, when you're put through your paces by an instructor that knows what they're doing, knows what they're looking for, you suddenly find out that some of the gear that you thought was absolutely a necessity doesn't work out so well. And there are other reasons you might consider to have one piece of gear versus another piece of gear. And so there's a couple of practical reasons that I have chosen what I have chosen. About, oh man, 15 or man, it's been a while. Maybe 18 or 19 years ago. I had a couple of pieces of a couple of pistols that I liked. I was not certified. I wasn't a concealed carry license holder. Back then in Texas, you had to have a concealed carry permit to carry. We have constitutional carry now, and open carry is involved in that. And of course, you can still have your CHL, and there are some good reasons. I'm giving a thumbs up. There are good reasons to do that, and you should. But I had a couple of pistols, or at least one that was a really nice CZ CZ75 SPO1 tactical. That it was it was a duty gun for I think European forces, or I can't remember where it was from. But anyway, purchased it used from a Bass Pro Shop, and it was so easy to hit targets with. However, the thing weighed like 10 pounds because it was all steel. And I started doing some research and looking and touching stuff and found out that I really liked the way the Glock style pistols fit my hand. So I went with a Glock 26 at the time. And I kept that for a really long time. And after a couple of years after using or carrying that, I went to a Glock 19. And so for probably at least 10 years, maybe even longer than that, 12 years or so, I've carried this particular pistol every single day and without fail. Whether I'm working outside, whether I am going to work, whether I am going to church or whatever, I've carried this particular pistol. And for a large portion of that has been in a holster like this. This is a T-Rex Arms sidecar holster. This is probably the third one that I've had, and I haven't bought three of them. But I bought originally. I bought a T-Rex Arms Raptor holster. They don't make that one anymore. But when the Raptor broke, it broke right up at the where the fold was. This is a new design, obviously. It broke right up where the fold was. They sent me a sidecar as a warranty replacement. And like I said, this came to me free. I mean, I bought the original Raptor, but T-Rex Arms, for whatever opinion you might have of them, given all their family drama that has been public, they make good stuff. And so I will continue to use their product. And I, you know, while I do care about the way that people at least perceive family drama, at least public family drama, and how that affects people that or the testimony of people that are uh, proclaiming to be believers in Jesus. That sucks, but the company makes a good product, so I'll stick with them. There are a couple of other companies that I have tried, like Crossbreed. I have a Crossbreed holster that's the same style as this. This one's more comfortable. Now, if I would carry that every day, make adjustments to it, and just kind of tweak it, I'm sure it would work. But it's the holster that I use if this one fails. And like I said, this is probably the third one that I've had because the third sidecar that I've had over the years, every couple of years, I ended up seeing like a crack here, or at least the last one I had a crack right up here, and a simple warranty email or a simple email to their warranty department picture, and they send me a new one, and they say please don't use the old one, don't try to fix it, just chunk it, we will send you a new one, and so this is a essentially free holster. Like I said, Crossbreed makes some. I really like the Crossbreed style that has Kydex on one side and leather on the back. It's really comfortable. No matter what, make sure you choose a reputable holster company, and I'm going to show you what not to choose here in a minute. But anyway, uh, make sure you choose a reputable holster company. There are tons of reviews on holsters everywhere, so you don't need me to tell you what to buy. But whatever you choose, just make sure that it has good trigger guard protection. Something plastic, metal, something hard that protects this trigger guard, because you don't want anything getting in there and pushing on the trigger when you're trying to reholster, especially on an appendix holster like this. Where this is pointed, you definitely do not want to have anything pushing on the trigger. I've seen a lot of leather holsters, like solid leather holsters that are really stiff right up at the start, but over years of use they get kind of flimsy. And there are a number of news stories you can go search out and find where someone has tried to reholster their pistol or whatever, and the leather gets kind of nasty worn and ends up pushing on the trigger when they reholster, and they end up shooting themselves. Well, it's an unintentional or a negligent discharge. So, not cool. Don't do that. Get a good holster that's got some type of plastic protection, some type of hard shell protection over the trigger guard. A lot of people like, I've seen a lot of people that like belly bands or something like that. Okay, cool. Those are good in the right use case. You might like where it straps, where your body build or whatever, but no matter what, make sure there's some type of plastic or hard shell over where the trigger goes. So in a belly band or something like that, some of the manufacturers I've seen will include like some kind of little plastic insert that goes inside the belly band and protects the trigger from being depressed. Whatever it is, if you've got to fabricate one or do something, if you're going to carry that way, make sure that the trigger guard there's a good trigger guard there. So uh, anyway, to the pistol. This pistol has had a few modifications to it, but I have tried to keep it fairly stock. We'll double check. There is no magazine. We'll double check. There is nothing in the chamber. Okay, so not to flame me for that. But anyway, this is almost stock Glock 19. Um, and I've got the stock Glock sights on it. I have not always used these stock sights. I will tell you why in a minute. You can see that it's uh, should have been cleaned a little bit better. But like I said, I carry this every single day. It's worn from years of being carried, and I try to go and shoot it, at least shoot this pistol particularly, every few months. If I don't sooner than that, just to make sure that everything's good to go. I normally uh, have my carry ammo. I carry it every day as well, but maybe every 3 months, 6 months or so, I go and just blast through all the carry ammo that I have and reload. So, anyway, I have stock sights, I have stock trigger, I have stock everything except for I had my one of my friends. Shout out to Martin at Mag Coatings. He does some awesome stippling, whatever you want to call it. And I had him do some grip improvements. The stock, this is a Gen 3 Glock 19. The The texturing on the stock uh, pistol is okay, but could be better. I also had him remove some of the finger grooves. So there's one groove here, there's an undercut here, and I can really get high up on that, and it's really comfortable for me. Still fits in stock holsters and all of that, so we're good to go. I do not have any other upgraded parts in this. And the reason I don't do that is I saw there's a couple of trainers that I watch somewhat regularly, and Masad Ayub is one, and John Level, Warrior Poet Society, is another. And I've heard them and others make comments about modifying your carry gun. And specifically, Masad Ayub talks about this because he not only focuses on the tactics and the skill, but he also focuses on legal considerations. And one of the things that he's noted in some legal trials is that if you have a bunch of modifications to your firearm, and you have to use it in a self-defense scenario, the people that will be trying to sue you, whether that be the local government entity or a civil case, if the family of whoever you had to whatever threat you had to stop decides to sue you, which they will. Another video for another day. What to do about that? But in any case, that he has seen some where the attorneys that are trying to obviously get you convicted have pointed out that you modified your firearm so that it would be a more efficient killing machine, and thus your intentions were malicious and evil. And so you must have had terrible intentions in shooting poor whoever it was that was, grandma's favorite child and always a straight A student, never had any problems and all that stuff, and just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when he or she or whoever was, trying to hurt you in some way that you must have misunderstood, but you modified your gun, and so you were actively searching out for people to shoot or kill or whatever, and that is not good. And so, what Masad Ayub has said is probably just try to keep a stock gun, and this way, in this, if it does, when it does get confiscated by the police because you were in a defensive shooting, you're not out a whole lot, and B, um, that attack against you is not going to be able to be used. So what I've done here is just simply for grip, because I like the texture. This is not necessary. I probably shouldn't have done this to the gun that I carry every day for those reasons, but had a bunch of stuff happen in life, and this was a therapy purchase. Had some bad stuff happen at home, a lot of life changing events, and so I did some stuff that I spent some money on some stuff that anyway probably could have been better spent elsewhere. But whatever. So I have the stock Glock sights on it. I have experimented with like the tritium type night sights, which are really cool and they work well in certain contexts. But generally speaking, you probably don't need anything other than the stock sights. Now, some people don't like the stock. Let's see. I hold it the right way, the stock Glock, basketball hoop type sights. So you put a set of 3-dot sights on there or something like that. But just be careful what you put on, because not only the lawsuit type thing, but you might have some unintended consequences. For instance, I at one point had a set of TrueGlow TFX tritium and fiber optic sights on this particular gun, and they worked really well. They were really bright and light outside, and the tritium glowed really well at night. However, there was some issue where, see, these are just the stock Glock plastic sights. You could get the steel ones from Glock as well, or a number of other companies make some other sights. But just make sure that when you do, um, that they are snag free. So these are plastic. The edges are somewhat rounded. No issues there. But like I said, on these are the particular TrueGlow sights that I had on there, and they're steel, and some of the edges are rounded, but the edges right back here on the U, if I can barely see that, but whatever, are kind of sharp, and so you might end up with clothes that look something like this. If y'all can see this, this is a work shirt. Now, obviously, it's stained and stuff like that, but it didn't used to be. This was my Kentucky Ballistics "There's Poop on Everything" shirt, and I really liked it. But I started noticing these little holes start appearing everywhere. These are not moth holes. These are holes where the sight got hung up when I was either drawing, reholstering, whatever, and it just tore little holes, and of course they got bigger over time. No fun. So just be careful. Be intentional with what you buy. At one point, I had GAS. GAS stands for Gear Acquisition Syndrome, and everything that was, I mean, I still have GAS, but different types. But you know, you see cool stuff, you see somebody advertising cool stuff, and so you're like, hey man, that would be really beneficial. I'm gonna buy that, and you do, and it doesn't work all that well for you. So just be intentional with what you buy. So typically, like I said, I carry this Glock 19. I carry it in this T-Rex arm sidecar holster. I also carry a multi-tool with me. You've all seen the video. If you haven't, there's an EDC Part 1 video. That was one of the first videos that I made, and it got a ton of views. No, not too many comments, though, which is fine. But I also carry, like I said, a multi-tool, and then I also carry a spare mag. And so with this particular pistol, I have 15 rounds plus one in the chamber, and then I carry a spare Glock 17, which is, or Glock, sorry, yeah, Glock 17 magazine, which is 17 rounds. This is Glock 19. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers mixed up. So it carries 15 rounds in the magazine from the factory, one in the chamber, and then I carry a spare 17 round magazine. And so I have quite a bit of rounds on me at any particular time. But that's just me. I'm comfortable with that. Some people are not. And some people, this gun may be way too big. It may print too much, and it may just be too thick or whatever, but, or it may just be too dirty in this case. But anyway, going on a men's shooting with some dudes from my church next week. So I'm going to blast some rounds through this and then go clean it, oil it up, and blast all my carry ammo and get it all nice. Anyway, some other honorable mentions or things you might consider. This is, like I said, a stock Glock 19. Another option that is really popular these days is a Glock 48 type or 48X type pistol. This happens to be a Palmetto State Armory micro dagger. It's the same type of frame, same internal, almost all, everything is identical to a Glock 48X, 43X, 48X, 48X. Sorry, get my numbers mixed up again. But if you notice, it is significantly, well, it's slightly thinner on the back side, slightly thinner than a Glock 19. You can really tell where the grips kind of swell at the bottom. And this one feels really comfortable to carry. In the past, you've been limited by round count. So, like I said, this Glock 19 is 15 rounds plus one. Very, very ubiquitous type firearm. And one of the other reasons that I have chosen this is because there are parts literally everywhere, magazines everywhere, everything's cheap. I'm a fairly utilitarian, practical person, and so that just makes a lot of sense. The Glock grip angle fits well. It's not great, it's not perfect. When they say Glock perfection, like, yeah, probably not. But it works well, and so I use it. But the 48X or the micro dagger is way compact, and from the factory you get 10 round magazines. Until now, Glock actually has released official Glock 15 round magazines for this. I mean, it's tiny, right? I also have some of the Palmetto State Armory magazines, which hold 15 rounds. It's very difficult to get 15 rounds in it, but they do fit, and it works very well. There are a couple other companies that make 15 round magazines for it. So, for something this size, especially this thickness, you get the same round count as this. This does not fit my hand as well as this firearm. It is also because it is smaller. It's a little bit snappier on recoil. Not bad, totally manageable though. And so I've been experimenting with this. I bought, just to see, I bought some kind of little cheap knockoff holster off of Amazon for like $19 or something like that for the Glock 43X. But it goes in, it fits well. If I decide to carry this like every day or something like that, I will get a nice T-Rex or crossbreed, or really? You've been so quiet. Thank you. The birds just had babies, and so they're freaking out like new parents do. So anyway, I'll get a nice holster for this if I decide to carry it. But I just bought something just to try it. The clips on the cheap ones are really big. I don't like the big clips. I like the thin clips like this because you can kind of tilt them a little bit. And I tend to like mine when I carry appendix like that to kind of be tilted just forward a little bit, help conceal. But make sure if you're doing appendix carry, make sure you get the claw, because when your belt goes across this, because you should be carrying it with a belt, um, it presses against this part of the holster and pulls it in. But it sounds uncomfortable, but it really is. I generally every day carry appendix holsters. I have a couple of belt holsters. I have a Bravo concealment outside the waistband holster that works really well, but it does not conceal very well. And so if I'm wearing flowy shirts or whatever, which flowy, that sounds really June month of me to say, but not flowy. Let's say larger fitting, maybe. It carries really well, and I can draw fairly fast from that type of carry position, but it doesn't conceal as well. And so I've gone generally to appendix carry. But your mileage may vary. Some people do not like appendix carry because you're pointing your gun at bits that don't need to have things pointed at it. I understand that. However, if you do if you do obey the firearm safety rules, you're not going to have any problems. Just remember, keep your finger off of the trigger. I've heard it said, draw very quickly, present fire very quickly, but holster very, very slowly, very intentionally. So yeah, hopefully don't have any problems with that. But again, if you're obeying the firearm safety rules, if you're keeping that finger off of the trigger, shush, then you're not going to have any problems. Which is why I said earlier, um, make sure that you don't get a holster that's crappy. Like I said, this little cheap one I got off of Amazon was just to kind of mess with it and see how comfortable it felt. I didn't want to spend like 80 or 90 bucks on a holster if I wasn't going to use it. So that one's kind of cheap, and on Amazon you could probably send stuff back if you don't like it or whatever. But in any case, so that's what I typically carry. Another honorable mention. So I said I talked about this. I talked about the Glock 43X or 48X. The difference is the grip length. The 48X is nice. It fits just like this one. I mean, it's not as thick, so I don't like it as much. But anyway, it works really well, and it's thin. So another honorable mention for a little bit cheaper is a Palmetto State Armory Dagger, the compact size. So it's essentially the same thing as a Glock 19. And for those that have commented and said, hey, you know what? Why aren't you using, red dots and all that stuff? I have one with a red dot on it. So this is my dagger. This is a Griffin Armament compensator. I got it because somebody was selling it on eBay for really, really cheap, and I wanted a thread protector because this is a threaded barrel. Does it work really well? Do I notice a big difference? Not really, but if I'm sure there's a little difference if it was a slow mo video and all of that. But whatever. I don't typically carry this gun. In fact, I almost never carry this gun. It is fun to shoot, but I will say there is a case to be made for red dot sights. And that case is if you are not familiar with firearms in general, if you're not accustomed to shooting firearms, and you pick up a gun with a red dot sight and you start training with it, you will get very fast and proficient with it. But if you are used to training with a pistol with typical iron sights, it's going to take you more repetitions to get comfortable with this. And by more repetitions, I mean, let's say you've been shooting for, I don't know, 10, 20 years, and you've put tens of 50s of hundreds of thousands of rounds through these pistols with iron sights. Well, you're going to be pretty proficient pretty quick with those iron sights. But if you switch to a completely new sighting system that requires some other skills, it's going to take you a while to get comfortable with it, and you're not going to be as proficient as you would be immediately. That's not to say you can't train around that. You definitely can. It's just going to take some time, some effort, some energy, and definitely lots of ammo. Um, the main problem I see with people with trying to shoot red dots is when they present the firearm up. Let's see if I can do this. This is not going to work all that well, but whatever. You'll see people like pointing, like moving the gun around, moving their head around, trying to find the dot. That's bad. Obviously, if you can't find your sighting system, you're not going to be able to make accurate shots on target quickly. Um, and so, if you are trying to use a red dot and you are just sitting there, kind of doing this thing with the gun or doing the same thing with your head, you're not going to be able to make some accurate, quick shots. And so, just simply doing ready ups. So down and then up, down, up, bringing the dot directly in front of your eye. And then, and then eventually, doing some dry fire with it. Just ready up and then click, reset, ready up, quick. So the idea is to bring the dot to your eye without having to move your head and just making it muscle memory. I don't have that right now. I can make fairly quick shots, accurate shots with a red dot pistol. I'm much faster with iron sights, and so I carry a pistol with iron sights. Hey, one other thing is it saves me money because this red dot was about $250. This is a Holosun HS507CX2. All that to say is it's not an RMR or anything like that. And a lot of companies make these, but make sure if you do get a red dot, make sure that the mounting system is torqued down well and that it's not going anywhere and that you zero it and that you are familiar with your offsets because we're adding height over the bore. And so at whatever distance I've decided to zero this at, variations of that distance, shorter or longer, you're going to have where your sights don't quite line up with where you're hitting. And so it's not as noticeable on something like this where the sights are almost right on top of the pistol or top of the barrel. But, your offsets are important, especially if you're making really accurate shots. I have some targets that I like to use that are hostage rescue targets. And if you don't have your offset memorized correctly and apply that practically, you're not going to shoot the bad guy, let's just say. And that would be really bad. Another thing with red dots is a lot of people will run backup iron sights. These are actual iron sights, and these are suppressor height, which is fine. It allows me to kind of co-witness through the red dot, and so if the red dot fails for whatever reason, battery fails, I've got solar, but if both things fail, if there's an electronics failure, I can look through the window and see my iron sights. But this is going to snag on stuff. And this is going to snag on stuff. But one of the cool things about having a red dot is if something happens, you're injured or whatever, you can slam this red dot up against something and fix problems. So, like for instance, you got a stuck round or whatever, or something. On this dagger, I can rip out the magazine and I can just shove this red dot against something and it will help. If I can't manipulate it with two hands or whatever, you generally should be able to do that with a red dot. Do you need it? I don't know. Are you going to train with it? That's the thing. If you have to have it, if you buy it or whatever, cool. But make sure that you practice. That is the end all be all. Train, train, train. Problems can be trained around, and you'll notice eventually. Hopefully, you're humble enough to notice that all of these guns and all of these configurations will shoot better than you can. And so you don't have to have a red dot. You don't have to have a this or a that or this, $300 trigger or whatever. You can get cheaper triggers than that, but you get the idea. You don't have to have that to be accurate. If you are accurate with a stock gun, if you are accurate with the stock setup, and you are trained and you are dialed in, then adding those parts may be beneficial to you. If you're looking for the splits, the timer, you might see a benefit to it. But for everyday carry, you probably should consider something a little more plain, especially since, let's say, I've bought this. I bought this in parts and put it together, but it cost about 280, $300 for the gun total. Um, like I don't even remember how much I paid for this compensator. It's not necessary. I have a little cheapy thread protector that comes with it. And the Holosun was an extra 250. And so what am I at? If I it was what 550 for this setup. This one was 425 or something like that. And so if something happens and I have to use this defensively, it's going to get confiscated by the police. Will I get that back? Hopefully, but I don't want to be out a lot more. It's even if this was a regular like a Glock, like a Gen 5, Gen 6 with a red dot on. I mean, you're looking at 700-800 bucks, and to be without that, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if you haven't gathered, I'm not exactly the most well-funded person here, especially with regard to firearms and security and stuff like that. Try to make intentional purchases, but if I've got $1,000 invested in a pistol and then it suddenly gets taken away while the investigation is happening, which it will, then what do I got? What do I have? So I would much rather give this one up, although it's sentimental, um, than have something expensive confiscated. Just some things to consider. But what I would really suggest is no matter what you choose, this is what I've chosen. If you go with Glock, if you go with Smith and Wesson, the M&P series is really cool. I just happen to go with this, and so I've bought into kind of the Glock ecosystem, if you will. But I can buy magazines for 19 bucks, and I can the most expensive part is ammo at this point. But magazines are everywhere. Every store has them, and people all over the place have them. So and there's parts widely available. I will also note if you do use a Palmetto State Armory dagger, if you're going to carry this every day, there have been some concerns about firing pin breakage. I've seen some where they've broken after a couple hundred rounds. I've seen some broken after a couple thousand rounds. And I've seen some that haven't broken after many thousands of rounds. But if you're going to carry something like this every day and rely on it for your safety, that would be one part that I would probably recommend replacing. And it's a very easy to replace part. You pull off the little back plate off the slide, the firing pin assembly comes out, a little spring you take off, you put the new one on, no problem, put it back in. And it's very easy. There's a trillion videos you can find about that. Last but not least, what kind of ammo do you carry? Like I said, I blow through my carry ammo every couple of months, and so that kind of ammo can get expensive. So over the years, I buy whatever I can find that's decent, and I just buy it when it's on sale. And so I'll have a compilation of carry ammo. I have some Hornady Critical Defense, Critical Duty. This is one of those. This is what was actually in my pistol. You can see the little rubber insert inset there in the hollow point from the Critical Duty. And anyway, that's a good round. Just use a known good round. Some Critical Defense, Critical Duty would be okay. Spear Gold Dot has kind of been like the gold standard for use for a very long time. That's a good one. Winchester Ranger, you can get that in bulk sometimes depending on where you buy. So instead of the really expensive 20-round boxes, you can get it in like 50-round boxes if you can. Federal makes an HST. That's nice. Just no matter what you choose, make sure that it is proven. And by proven, I mean there's about a billion videos on YouTube where you can see uh, ballistics tests for these. Just make sure you've got something that goes in it's got good penetration, that has good expansion, and because remember, the idea isn't to kill someone. If someone is attacking you, the idea is not to kill them. The idea is to stop the threat, and that's what we should be focusing on. The fastest way to stop the threat. It's not about shooting to kill or anything like that. It's about or shooting to wound. Really, you have people in the news or people that are interviewed saying, "Hey, well, why don't you just shoot them in the kneecap or something like that?" That's a really hard shot to make. So we need the best chance of stopping the threat, and that is a good quality hollow point round with coming out of accurate shots on the upper torso area. And so that's the best chance of stopping a threat that you have. So let your gear reflect that. Let your gear reflect the research that you have done, what is comfortable for you, and what has been proven. And you should be good to go. But no matter what, train, practice. and you'll find out what works well, what doesn't, and what you need to improve on. So, with that, I think we'll go back for the finish. All right, we're back. Hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please shoot me a comment, an email, message, whatever, and I will get back as soon as I possibly can. That sounds like a really cheesy answering machine thing. If you have an answering machine, or if you ever had an answering machine, you are old. Congratulations. So, any case, any questions, let me know. And anything I missed, any recommendations for me, let me know. If you want to send me anything to test out or to try, or just because you love me and you want me to have some cool gear, I'm all for that too. Everything here, like I said earlier, has been self-funded, and so I'm just doing this because a lot of people ask about what type of pistol I carry, what type of other gear I normally carry, and so here's EDC Part 2. Anyway, hope it was helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.